The keycard clicked green on the third try, and the hotel suite opened into cold air, ocean light, and a booking problem neither of us had planned for. One room, one sofa, one bed. Juliet Lewis stopped beside her suitcase without stepping farther inside. She wore a cream wedding weekend dress under a structured blazer, her hair still pinned from the welcome brunch. One hand wrapped around her phone so tightly, the screen lit against her palm. Behind us, the hallway smelled of sea salt, floor polish, and expensive flowers from her sister's wedding block. Juliet stared at the sofa first, then the bed. Then me. My mother did this on purpose. I set my laptop bag on the desk near the window and left the door open behind us. Angela Lewis doesn't believe in accidents? Angela Lewis once color-coded the seating chart for a funeral luncheon. Juliet rolled her suitcase to the far side of the room, putting the bed between us like a courtroom exhibit. Sela said the resort is completely full. My mother said it was a booking mix-up. There is never a booking mix-up when my mother has a spreadsheet. I looked at the sofa. Long enough, barely. Good news, I said. That couch looks judgmental but survivable. Juliet pressed 2 fingers to her temple. Kian, you are already pretending to be my fiancé for 3 days. You don't have to sleep on designer leather, because my family wants to test whether we're real. I pulled out my phone and called the front desk on speaker. Juliet blinked. Mr. Ward, the receptionist, said a moment later. How may I assist you? Could you confirm whether there are any rooms available under any wedding block, staff block, overflow hold, or cancellation list? Keys clicked. Juliet turned toward the window, jaw tight. I'm sorry, sir, the receptionist said. The resort is fully committed through Sunday. We can add you to the wait list, but at the moment there are no alternate rooms available. Please note the request and email confirmation to both guests on the reservation. Of course, I hung up and placed my phone face down on the desk. There, I said. No mystery, no secret pressure. One room because the hotel is full. I take the sofa, you take the bed, and if anyone asks, I stayed up working because crisis doesn't respect mattress assignments. Her shoulders lowered by half an inch. Not relief. A start. She crossed to the window and looked down at the resort lawn, where workers were assembling white chairs for Sela's ceremony. Her younger sister was getting married in less than 48 hours. Every cousin, uncle, investor-adjacent family friend, and polished enemy was already on site, including Dalton. That was why I was here. Juliet's former business partner, former fiancé, current groomsman, the man who had spent the last week circulating out-of-context environmental impact reports from her ecotech startup, trying to make seed investors believe she had inflated performance projections before the funding round closed. If the smear stuck, her board could freeze the round. If the round froze, her company missed its manufacturing deadline. If the company missed that deadline, Dalton could walk into the Monday board call and argue she was too compromised to remain CEO. He didn't need the lie to survive forever. Only through the wedding weekend, long enough to make panic look like governance. Juliet's phone buzzed. She turned it over, read the screen, then set it face down on the windowsill. The movement was controlled. Too controlled. What did he send? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Outside, the ocean hit the rocks below the resort in slow white bursts. Then she said, "He's telling people I brought you because I can't defend my own numbers." I opened my laptop. That's useful. Her head turned. Useful? It tells us he's worried about the numbers. If his evidence were clean, he'd let it speak. My dashboard loaded. Investor chatter, industry mentions, journalist activity, Dalton's known contacts, risk terms tied to Juliet's company. Nothing public yet. Too quiet. Quiet made my hands still. Juliet noticed, "You don't like what you're seeing." "I don't like what I'm not seeing." She walked to the desk but stopped an arm's length away.
Say it plainly.
Dalton has a leak ready to...
He's waiting for a moment with maximum social damage.
The rehearsal dinner. Or before.
If he humiliates you in front of your family first.
The article lands softer. People believe a woman is guilty faster when they've already seen her isolated.
Juliet's throat moved.
Then she took the chair across from the desk, opened her tote, and pulled out a folder with colored tabs. I brought the audit notes, the old test phase reports, and the third-party calibration letters. I looked at the folder. A corner of it was bent from being gripped too hard.
You came prepared.
I came angry. Even better. For the first time since the keycard reader flashed red in the hallway, her mouth almost curved. Almost. The welcome reception started at 6. At 5:40, Juliet stood in front of the mirror near the suite dorm, adjusting the cuff of her blazer. She looked like herself again. CEO posture, clean lines, steady gaze. Only the phone, face down on the desk, gave her away. I closed my laptop. Ground rules. I said. She met my eyes in the mirror. We are not selling romance, I continued. We are selling stability. No overacting. No private whispers in corners. No hand at your back. Unless you ask. If Angela tests the engagement, we keep answers specific and boring. If Dalton pushes, we answer with process. Juliet turned. And if I freeze, you won't. Kian, I softened my voice. If you need a second, you set your glass down. I'll step into the conversation, not over you. Beside you. Her fingers stopped worrying the blazer cuff. Okay. The reception terrace smelled of hydrangeas, salt air, and champagne nobody needed. A string quartet played near the fountain. Sela, the bride, stood in the center of the terrace, glowing with happiness and panic, holding a flute she hadn't touched. Angela Lewis intercepted us before the bar. She wore a navy pantsuit and the expression of a woman who could turn disappointment into a seating arrangement. Juliet, she said, kissing her daughter's cheek. Kian. I admit, this sudden engagement has given the family a great deal to discuss. That's what families do best. I said, discuss things before they understand them. Juliet coughed once into her glass. Angela's eyes narrowed. Dalton is here, she said. Please don't let whatever is happening with your company become Sela's headline. Juliet set her sparkling water down on the nearest cocktail table. Not hard. Just enough. Kian and I are here for Sela, she said. Dalton's behavior is Dalton's responsibility. Angela looked as if she had expected a defense and received a door. Before she could reply, Sela appeared with both hands full of folded place cards. Mom, the officiant is asking whether Aunt Mira is allowed to read the poem with the swan metaphor. She is absolutely not, Angela said, and swept away. Sela watched her go, then turned to Juliet. You okay? Juliet picked up her glass again. I'm standing. Sela's eyes flicked to me. Take care of her. I kept my voice even. She's not luggage. Juliet's gaze moved to mine. Sela smiled faintly. Good answer. Then Dalton arrived. Linen suit. Polished smile. Whiskey glass. The exact posture of a man who believed witnesses made him safer. Juliet, he said. Bold choice coming down tonight. Conversation near us thinned. He wanted a stage. I stayed half a step behind Juliet's shoulder. Her floor, her fight. My sister is getting married. Juliet said, Of course I came down. Dalton glanced at me. And the fiancé? Convenient timing. Old friends have good timing. I said. He laughed. Is that what we're calling crisis management now? Juliet's hand tightened once around her glass. Then she set it down. My cue. Dalton, I said, Before this becomes embarrassing, you should know Juliet's test phase reports are already preserved with her outside counsel, the calibration vendor, and an independent environmental auditor. If you circulate altered or incomplete material, you will not look like a whistleblower. You'll look like a former executive violating an exit agreement during a wedding weekend. His smile thinned. You don't know what I have. No, I said, but I know what clean evidence looks like. You haven't shown any. The air between us cooled. Juliet stepped forward. My company's numbers are sound, she said. If you have a legal concern, send it to counsel. If you have a personal grievance, stop using my sister's wedding as your office. Dalton's jaw moved once. A few guests pretended not to listen. Badly. He looked toward Angela, then back to Juliet. This confidence won't survive tomorrow. Then he walked away. Juliet didn't move until he was gone. Then she picked up her sparkling water and took one slow sip. Her hand did not shake. At 11:18 that night, back in the suite, my laptop pinged. Juliet had changed into a loose travel cardigan and dark lounge pants before sitting in the armchair by the window, a blanket over her knees, her laptop open on the side table. The bed was untouched, except for a row of folded pillows she had stacked near the headboard, like architecture. I sat at the desk. The sofa already had my spare blanket, phone charger, and a pillow from the closet. Distance, clarity, no ambiguity. The ping came from my media monitor. Tech Insider inquiry submitted to Juliet's public inbox. Headline draft attached. Ecotech founder accused of inflating impact data ahead of funding round. Juliet's laptop chimed a second later. She read the subject line. The color left her face. I did not tell her to calm down. Calm was useless without a task. Forward it to the secure folder. I said, then call Mara. Mara's in London. Mara is your general counsel. Scandals ignore time zones. Juliet's fingers moved over the keyboard. Mine moved faster. At 11:24, Mara Singh joined our secure call with wet hair, glasses, and the deadly calm of a lawyer who had been woken for a good reason. Tell me Dalton was stupid. Mara said. He was eager. I said. Usually adjacent. Juliet forwarded the inquiry, the attached documents, and the reporter's deadline. Mara reviewed the file for 30 seconds. These are modified drafts. Yes. Juliet said, original test phase numbers were superseded after recalibration. Do we have chain of custody? Juliet opened her folder and slid me the auditor letter. Calibration vendor confirmation, board minutes, original raw data archive. Dalton had access before his exit, but not after. Mara looked at me through the screen. Kian, your role? Crisis response and media hold. No forensic claims from my firm. We need an outside digital examiner to verify document metadata before we accuse Dalton directly. Mara nodded. I'll call Iris Chen. By midnight, Iris had the documents. By 12:41, she had the first report. The files sent to Tech Insider had been edited after Dalton's termination date. Negative projection cells had been manually inserted. Metadata showed a local export from a device registered to Dalton's consulting company. But Iris would not certify that until she completed the hash comparison. Good, not magic. Process. At 1:08, Mara sent a preservation notice to Dalton and a liability notice to Tech Insider. At 1:22, the editor confirmed the story was on hold, pending review. Not retracted. Not killed. Held. That was enough for the night. Juliet sat in the armchair with both hands around a glass of water. The ice had melted. She hadn't drunk it. I stood and stretched the ache out of my shoulders. Story is held. Iris keeps working. Mara has the legal channel. I'm taking the sofa. Juliet looked toward the laptop screen. You make crisis sound so clean. It isn't clean. It's just labeled. She looked at me then. The desk lamp caught the wet shine in her eyes, but no tears fell. If this goes live tomorrow, the funding round freezes. I know. If the round freezes, Dalton calls the board. I know. If the board even hesitates, then tomorrow we give them something better than hesitation. She gave a small, tired laugh. You always did talk like you could reorganize a hurricane. Only if the hurricane sends documents with bad metadata. That did it. One real laugh. Quiet. Brief, but real. She finally drank the water. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and ocean air. Juliet was already dressed in a pale blue blouse and trousers, hair pinned back, shoes on, laptop open at the desk. A folded blazer sat on the back of the chair. A black coffee waited near the sofa on a coaster. I sat up. You stole my desk. I improved your workspace. You brought me coffee. You stayed up until 2, protecting my company. Mara and Iris protected your company. I wrote emails with posture. She looked over her shoulder and slept on a sofa shaped like a folded envelope. It has character. It has consequences. On the laptop screen, Iris's certified report was open. Dalton's document edits were confirmed. Tech Insider had agreed not to publish the original article. Instead, the editor wanted a short comment for a developing piece on an attempted smear involving disputed environmental data. That was better. Not painless, but better. Juliet read the proposed comment twice. No, she said. I paused with the coffee halfway to my mouth. No? It sounds defensive. She turned the laptop toward me. It says the company denies wrongdoing. I don't want denial as the lead. The lead is that our data has already been independently audited. I set the coffee down. She was right. Say it. She didn't need more prompting. She rewrote the statement herself. Lewis Green Systems' current environmental impact data has been independently verified and remains unchanged. Documents circulated to media outlets this weekend were altered after the sender's departure from the company. Council has issued preservation notices, and we will protect the integrity of our technology, team, and investors through the appropriate legal channels. She looked at me. Too sharp? No, I said, yours. She sent it. At noon, Selah found us in the courtyard near the resort kitchen. I had brought Juliet a turkey sandwich because she had survived on coffee and outrage. She accepted it without complaint, which told me more about her stress level than any speech. Selah sat beside her in a cloud of white rehearsal lace and sisterly dread. Mom says you two are hiding from family photos. I'm eating, Juliet said. Selah looked at the sandwich. That is new. Juliet took a bite with exaggerated dignity. Selah's eyes moved between us. I'm sorry about the room. Juliet swallowed. You knew? I knew Mom suspected the engagement was fake. I didn't know she asked the hotel to stop looking for alternatives. Selah winced. I told her it was cruel. She said it was efficient. I closed my eyes briefly. Your family uses efficiency like a weapon. Selah nodded. Constantly, Juliet set the sandwich down. Selah. I'm sorry this is touching your wedding. Her sister's face softened. Jules. Dalton is touching my wedding. Mom's suspicion is touching my wedding. You are my sister. You're allowed to exist here. For once, Juliet had no polished answer. Selah leaned closer. And for what it's worth, fake or not, Kian looks at you like he's reading a fire escape plan he actually trusts. I choked on my coffee. Juliet's ears turned pink. Selah stood before either of us could respond. Rehearsal in 30. Please don't let Mom win any more rooms. The rehearsal dinner began under chandeliers and tension. Angela seated Dalton close enough to the family table to be visible, but not close enough to look obvious. He smiled like a man waiting for the knife he had thrown to return with blood on it. It didn't. At 7:12, Tech Insider published, "Not the smear. A different headline. Ecotech startup says ex-executive circulated altered environmental drafts. Independent review confirms current data. Phones lit across the ballroom. Whispers moved through the room like wind through grass. Dalton saw it on someone else's screen. His smile collapsed. Angela read the article at the head table, one hand pressed flat against the linen. Then Dalton stood. "Bad move." "Juliet," he said loudly, "are you really going to pretend this is some clean misunderstanding?" The room quieted. Juliet stood before I could. "Better." "I'm not pretending anything," she said. "The current data is verified. The documents sent to reporters were altered after your departure. Council has issued preservation notices." Dalton's face flushed. "You brought your fake fiancé to threaten me." "No," Juliet said. "I brought my oldest friend because I was tired of standing alone in rooms where you lie with confidence." A low murmur passed over the tables. Angela looked between them. For the first time all weekend, she did not interrupt. Dalton reached for his glass, then seemed to remember people were watching his hands. "This isn't over," he said. Mara's voice came from Juliet's phone on the table, calm and amplified just enough. "Mr. Dalton, this is Mara Singh, General Counsel for Lewis Green Systems. Any further discussion should go through Council. You are currently under preservation notice." Sila, from the bridal table, whispered, "Mara is terrifying. She charges accordingly." I whispered back. Dalton left before dessert. No dramatic arrest, no shouted confession. Just a man discovering that process does not blink. Angela approached Juliet after dinner. Her posture had changed. Less ruler, more mother. Not enough, maybe, but more than before. "I thought you were hiding something," Angela said. Juliet answered. "I was hiding how much it hurt that you believed him first." Angela's fingers tightened around her clutch. Sila stepped closer, but Juliet lifted one hand. "Not yet." Her words, her boundary. "I'm not discussing this tonight," Juliet said. "Tomorrow is Sila's wedding. After the weekend, if you want to talk to me as your daughter instead of a reputation problem, call me." Angela's eyes shone. She nodded once. Juliet walked away. I followed only when she looked back and asked with one glance. Outside the ballroom, the hallway was quiet except for the distant surf and the soft hiss of the air conditioning. Juliet leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. I stopped 3 feet away. "You set the boundary," I said. Her eyes opened. "You keep saying that." "Because you keep doing it." Her mouth trembled once, then steadied. "Thank you for not taking over. Thank you for not letting me." That night, in the suite, the air felt different. The room was still awkward, still too cold, still designed by someone who thought 4 decorative pillows solved architecture. But the bed was no longer a threat. The sofa was no longer a punishment. The silence was no longer loaded. Juliet placed 2 glasses of water on the coffee table and sat in the armchair instead of the bed. "Iris sent the final hash report to Mara," she said. "I saw." "The lead investor confirmed the round stays open." "I saw that too. Your firm's name isn't in the article." "Good." She looked at me. "You protected that." "I protected the process." "And me?" I held her gaze. "Yes." I said, "but not from the truth." She looked down at her glass. The ice clicked softly against the rim. "What happens after Monday?" The question sat between us. Not fake. Not professional. Not safe enough to answer carelessly. "Monday, my firm transfers your account to another lead," I said. "Mara keeps the Dalton matter. Iris finishes the forensic packet. Your board gets the verified report. I stop being your crisis manager." Juliet's fingers rested on the side of the glass. "And the fake fiancé?" That ends when you say it ends. She nodded slowly. And if I want dinner Tuesday? My chest tightened. I kept both hands around my own water glass. Then Tuesday is dinner. No title. No invoice. No emergency. Her smile was small. Exhausted. Real. Good. Sunday came bright and clear. The wedding took place on the great lawn facing the Pacific. White chairs, blue sky, Sela laughing through her vows, Angela crying into a handkerchief she pretended was for allergies. Juliet stood beside her sister through the photographs, head high, shoulders loose for the first time all weekend. I waited near the back of the lawn with my hands in my pockets, not hiding, just giving family its space. After the final photo, Juliet crossed the grass toward me. Her emerald dress moved in the ocean wind. Her blazer was folded over one arm. She did not look back at Angela, Dalton's empty groomsman spot, or the cousins whispering near the champagne table. She stopped in front of me. "Ready?" I asked. Instead of answering, she looped her arm through mine. Public, calm, her choice. "We should go congratulate my sister," she said. "Together?" She looked up at me. Together? The reception was not perfect. No wedding is. The cake leaned slightly left. Aunt Mira still tried to read the swan poem. One of the groom's cousins spilled champagne on the guest book and blamed gravity. Sela danced barefoot before dinner ended. But Juliet laughed. Not for optics. Not to prove something. Just because her sister was happy. And the world had not ended. Late in the evening, Angela found us near the terrace railing. The sun had dropped low enough to turn the water copper. Music drifted behind us, soft and forgiving. Angela stopped beside Juliet, not in front of her. That mattered. I called Mara. She said. Juliet's face tightened. Angela lifted one hand to apologize to her for making assumptions about your company. Not to interfere. Juliet said nothing. Angela looked out at the ocean. I thought if I controlled the room, I could protect my daughters from embarrassment. Instead, I made it easier for a cruel man to make you feel alone. The wind moved the edge of Juliet's blazer. She did not forgive quickly. I respected that. Finally, she said, Sela gets tonight. Yes, Angela said. And you get whatever conversation you want later. On your terms. Juliet nodded. It was not a perfect repair, but it was a door no one forced open. On Monday morning, Juliet signed the account transfer from my firm to another crisis lead. Mara copied everyone who needed copying. Iris completed the final report. Dalton's counsel requested a settlement conversation by noon. The funding round remained active. Juliet remained CEO. The fake engagement ended in a 2-sentence email to Angela that Juliet wrote herself. Kian and I helped each other through a difficult weekend. The rest is ours to define. On Tuesday night, she met me at a small restaurant 2 neighborhoods from my office. No wedding guests. No reporters. No Dalton. No one calling me fiancé because they needed the word to hold up a lie. Juliet arrived in a navy blazer and simple silver earrings, carrying no folder for once. She set her phone face down on the table, then turned it off completely. That seems serious, I said. It is. I intend to eat pasta without monitoring investor sentiment. Bold governance choice. She smiled. The waiter poured water. Ice clicked against the glass, and we both looked at it. Then we laughed. That was when I knew the weekend had become something else. Not a rescue story, not a fake engagement. A beginning that had waited until the crisis was over to ask for a real answer. 6 months later, Juliet's company closed its funding round. The first manufacturing site opened with independent auditors standing beside the board, which was Juliet's idea of a party. Dalton surrendered his remaining claims and signed an agreement so strict, Mara described it as restorative silence. Sela sent us a framed wedding photo.
Not of the ceremony.
Of the reception lawn, where Juliet had her arm through mine, and both of us were laughing at something outside the frame. On the back, Sela had written, "Real enough for me." Juliet put it on the shelf in her office. Not hidden, not announced, just there. The next time I visited, she handed me sparkling water in a glass with too much ice. "You still owe me a better sofa experience." I said, "You are never letting that go." That couch had corners where corners should not be. It built character. It built back pain. She laughed, and the sound filled her office with something warmer than victory. On her desk, her phone stayed face up. No alerts, no hidden threat, no one else defining the room. She reached across the desk and took my hand. No audience, no performance. Only the woman who had stopped shrinking to make other people comfortable, and me, finally off the clock, choosing to stay. The end. Closing thoughts. Core lesson. Real love is not built by pretending for an audience. It grows through honesty, clean boundaries, and standing beside someone while they reclaim their own voice. Green flag. Healthy love does not use crisis, pressure, or shared rooms to force intimacy. It gives both people a clear choice, a safe exit, and time for the truth to become real. Like plus subscribe. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.